All right, good morning, folks. My name is Charles Ozuna. I'm one of the career development counselors here at UNCW. And today, what we're going to be talking about is negotiating the job offer. Now, whether you are someone who is looking for a job and you are going into negotiations, or if you are currently at a job and you're looking for that next step negotiation, or even a paid internship. We're going to talk about some of the things that we can do to assist you when you're doing your negotiations, and everything from some market strategies as well as the placement where you are, even the industry, because all of these things tend to have a large on the based on your negotiation. And right out of the gate, what I do want to say is that it's okay to negotiate. Sometimes folks feel that it may not be a good thing to negotiate. That's really false. You can always ask that question. If you do have any questions, I'm going to answer questions on the tail end of this presentation. So you can put them in the chat if you want to put them in so you don't forget during, that's totally fine. Or if you want to write it down and then put it on the chat towards the end of the presentation, that's totally fine as well. But I will take a few minutes towards the end to talk about negotiations to assist you moving forward. So one of the first things I do want to share with you are just some of the numbers that are currently happening in our market. So according to Glassdoor, 60% of employees did not try to negotiate their salary of their current job. Recent college graduates with degrees are most likely to negotiate in some of these key areas: computer science, engineering. And when we say engineering, we're talking all engineering: civic, mechanical, electrical, bioelectrical engineering, biological and physical sciences, and businesses. So if this isn't any of your core major areas, that's all right. These are just typically some of the higher end degrees that typically go right into negotiations. But on a gender scale, 52% of men accept their first offer without negotiation, comparative to 68% of women accept their first offer without negotiating. Sometimes, as I've said, folks feel like it's not okay to negotiate or even ask, when it is totally fine. And then generationally, 39% of current millennials negotiated their first job offers, compared to 46% of Gen Xers, according to the Washington Post. So there is a stigma that is out there that says, I should be happy enough that I got this job. I'm not going to negotiate what's available to me. And that is not true. You need to negotiate. It's okay to ask those questions. It's okay to see if there is even the ability to negotiate. Now, what is also important is knowing your market as well as your industry. So when I talk about market, these are some of the known cities and then the surrounding cities of high negotiations within the job industry. So for example, New York City, Charlotte, Houston, Washington, D.C., San Francisco, Boston, Dallas, and San Diego. Now, this is not to say that these are just the only cities, but surrounding cities. These target cities are usually cities that have multiple different industries, from commerce to manufacturing to health and wellness to media to business. So if you are looking at certain cities that you're applying to, or if you happen to be close to one of these hub cities as well, these are areas where negotiations are the norm, and it is okay to have that conversation ready when you get that offer. Or if you're already working there and you need to get an increase because it's not sustainable, or you're looking at what is available. So one of the first things you want to do is we're going to talk about being prepared for that. So I'm going to talk about this in different facets. One, know what people in the industry know. Not only pay scale, but the knowledge base. So if you are going into your first job, you just got your degree and you're looking at different companies, great, and you're getting some good hits and they're bringing in for interviews and possibly you're making it to the final round. That's great. What we want to start doing is get some information. Do you know folks who are already in that industry that can give you information on what some of those entry-level salaries are that company? Now, I wouldn't say, oh, directly ask your friend like, hey, how much do you make? Unless they're like your best friend and they're willing to share that, that may not be what you'd want to ask right out of the gate. But what is common knowledge for an entry-level position in that area? Having that information from multiple companies and multiple sources, that's going to be a benefit to you that you can bring up when you're going to start talking about the negotiation. Secondly, most public companies, you can find salary averages as well as salary averages in your market. So for example, a teacher who is just getting started in education in the state of North Carolina may not be paid the same as a teacher in the state of Virginia or New York or California. So you may not be able to ask for the same exact salary because cost of living is different, as well as the industry within education as an example. So find what are those public starting average salaries, or if you're already at a place, what is the average for that next bump of an increase? So this is only gonna, well, benefit you. You're gathering all this information. Thirdly, determine your worth and knowledge. Everything from Google to Glassdoor, PayScale, use everything you can so that when you're having this conversation, you're not just haggling and you're going fighting back and forth. No, be prepared with facts and information so that you know, hey, this is the average. So you don't get lowballed by thousands of dollars when you know you're more than qualified for a higher base salary. And also, you know every bit of knowledge you possess. If you have certain certificates, if you have certain licenses that make you stand out, those are all things that you can use that separate you from other candidates, but as well as prepare you to get that increase. As if the average per se is 55 and you're getting an offer of 50, well, then based on all the information you gathered, based on the market, based on the public or private information, putting all of those things together, that's going to give you ammunition. So when you're sitting there and you're going to bring up the discussion of negotiation within the salary, you have every bit of information to assist you. So you're not just sitting there like, can we talk about a possible increase? You have all the information that's there. All right. Now, what I want to also be prepared is when this conversation is to be had, what we want to use, some of the tactics. All right. So you're getting the information that you're prepared for this negotiation back and forth with the hiring director or your personal manager. Some of the things we want to avoid out of the gate, personal issues. Okay. We're all human. We all have things that we need to necessarily take care of. But you don't want to talk about certain things, like, for example, debt. It may be a driving force as well as paying off tuition. But you don't want to start with, well, I need $5,000 to $7,000 more in my salary or an increase because I'm trying to pay off these student loans. Many folks are still trying to pay off their student loans, and that's totally fine. But that's not something that you may want to bring to the table when you're talking about negotiations. All right? Employers at the same time, they want to help you, but you don't want to give them a sob story. It's more about what I can do for you, and if you're already there, how you're going to keep me, or if you're a new employee, this is why you want me. These are all the things I can do. All right. What you want to do is you want to present them with facts on why you deserve what you believe is a fair offer. And this is why gathering all that information is going to assist you when you're having that one-on-one with them. Now, sometimes it's not always going to be about the salary. There are certain companies or there are certain industries that may or may not be able to be flexible with salary. Are there other areas that they may be willing to assist you with? So for example, um, are there areas that you can opt in and go back and forth in the sense, is there a possibility for more vacation days? All right. If the salary is an issue, are there flexible hours? Are there travel compensations? Certain companies or certain industries, you may have to travel quite a bit for work. Are they going to cover all of your travel? All right. If you are in the business field or if you're in programming and you want to continue to increase that knowledge base for yourself, are they going to pay for your professional development? All right. There are many institutions as well as companies that they want the best of the best. And if you want to be an enhanced employee, then by all means, they're going to be like, great, we want to keep you on board. So if you're looking to do some professional development, let's help you out, right? Some companies even pay for advanced degrees. So if you're sitting there and you have your bachelor's or your master's, some companies would be like, you know what? If you're going to keep on getting more knowledge and helping our company out further, we're going to pay for your coursework. We're going to pay for your course load. We're going to cover that tuition because you're staying with us, okay? You are giving employers an advance on what you're able to do already and what you will do. And sometimes that can be the caveat, because if you're looking to get an advanced degree, the tuition can be expensive. So if you have a company that's willing to say, hey, we're going to cover the whole cost, half the cost, or certain courses within a semester, by all means, that's something that's really good. A lot of companies are taking this practice upon because they know school tuition, it's expensive. So if they can help, one, keep you, and then at the same time, give you a backing for you to continue that education, for you to continue that training, don't dismiss them completely. That may be something down the long run that's going to benefit you, okay? Now, you have that opportunity and you may be getting that negotiation one-on-one. So how do you bring it about? All right, what are some of the things that you're going to say? How are you going to bring that information? Because that's key. You don't want to just go in and be like, okay, I need an increase, or I don't know if this budget of the salary that you're offering me is going to fit. So let's talk about what are some of the ways that you need to be able to present that. So one, always be confident in your approach, okay? Companies, they value their employees based on what they're doing. If you're someone who's coming in with knowledge, if you're someone who's coming in with an array of a skill set, they're going to want to keep you, or they're going to want to hire you. So you having just the list of your accomplishments, your skill sets, that's going to justify your increase. If you have proof basically of what you've done or what you can do, that is a major selling point on your behalf, because you can say, well, I'm a great employee. Well, where's the proof? So if you are someone who's made it to the final round of your interviews, can you prove to me that you're worth this increase that we're going to talk about? So anything from previous research, previous work. Do you have a portfolio prepared? Do you have a website that you could bring up certain projects, certain numbers? You know, they say that term, proof is in the pudding, but it's really true. If you can prove to me why you are such a benefit and asset, no company's going to want to let you go. Especially if you can multitask and you can bring something new that hasn't been done before, that also will speak volumes, and they're going to want to keep you on board. All right. Lastly here, don't apologize for the money you're asking for, okay? You have to believe in your skill set for the salary you are seeking, okay? Just because one company may be offering you what you believe is a low figure, that's fine. Because there are other companies out there. There are so many different companies in the industries that will be willing to pay you what you're worth, okay? But I want you to be realistic, which is why doing the research is so key, all right? Look at those entry-level beginning numbers. If your salary request is far from their initial offer, you may want to rethink that. If you're going anywhere from $15,000 to $20,000 more, that may be a little too far, and also depending on the market. So that's where all that information comes in. Now, it's also, again, it's a numbers game. So as I said, you might not get the offer you're seeking, but are they willing to move? Certain companies may have a firm budget or they may not. So you may hear, this is the budgeted offer. And then you can ask them, okay, this is where you want to be able to go back and forth in a positive way, right? If there's no wiggle room, if this is what it is, they can't go back, then you have your firm number. So for example, though, let's say you get a salary base that's $52,000, and that may be below your industry. Maybe the average is 55, okay? Now, the employer, they may not tell you right away that it's the lowest figure, but if you've done your research, that's gonna benefit you because you've looked at the market, you looked at other companies who have that public entry-level position, you've reached out to people in the industry, so now you have the backing to start that conversation, okay? And one way you can start that, it's like, hey, I'm really excited by this position, it would be a great fit. I'm wondering if we can explore a slightly higher salary, let's say 59,000. And then you go with your information. My market research, and this is where you should have some handy, shows the average for said area, okay? So as an example, I used education, but programming. I'll just go into that area. Programming in the state of California will be different for programmers in, let's say, the state of Texas. So what one state's average may be slightly different, anywhere from 10 to 20,000. So that's why I say looking at your market is just as important as looking at the different companies in the different areas, okay? Now, if on the back end, the employer tells you like, I'm sorry, this is just what the number is, don't be afraid to walk away. Certain companies will kind of see if they'll call your bluff, and some will see, you know what, give me a minute or give us a day, let us get back to you. And then it's the waiting game. And don't be afraid to have anywhere from a quick turnaround time right there and then, or give us a day and we're gonna get back to you with a number. I myself have been in that same position where I've had to walk away from a firm number, but then I was also given can you give us 24 to 48 hours to see what we can do? I played the wait game and I didn't get the number I was seeking, but I got more than the initial offer. So sometimes it benefits you to wait if they say, let us get back to you, as opposed to, I'm sorry, that's just is where our numbers are. If they give you a firm number, they're unwilling to budge, you have your answer. But most companies, if they see a good employee, if they really like you and they know you're bringing something more, they're going to be willing to negotiate. And that's going to be key. And then the part that's on you is, am I willing to wait? All right. That's why the information is so important. Have so much that you have enough ammunition, enough information to give them, that they have enough to think about to say, we don't want to lose this applicant, or we don't want to lose this employee because of everything that they know or everything that they've already done. So these are some of the things that you really want to present, okay? Now, when you're having the conversation, it's easy to say, you know what, I don't want to seem like I'm asking or like I'm needy. No. That is totally fine. There's a difference between aggressive and assertive. You want to be assertive, okay? This is your livelihood, and it's okay to want to be fairly compensated for the type of work that you're doing, okay? So you don't want to start with, would it be okay if we talked about salary? That's an easy way to get denied, because it's like, no, not really. And then you just put yourself at a loss, okay? You don't want to start too aggressively with your skill set, or to say what you've already done. I'm well accomplished, and I know I can. You don't want to start like that. That may be something you can use as you're in the midst of your conversation, but you don't want to sound arrogant. You just want to be able to confidently talk about what you've done and what you can do. A great start is like, I would be grateful if we could talk about a salary increase, because you're not asking for permission. You don't need to ask for permission to talk about your negotiation. You can go right into it. It's how you start it. Depending on what you're saying, it's going to be an easy no. We're not going to talk about that now. No, this isn't a good time. Okay, timing is also important. Know when is a good time to bring that up. If you're having a nice one-on-one with your director, you can use some form of verbiage similar to what we see. I have some great ideas to prove productivity, that we can have a moment to discuss the salary. Great. Okay, you're going back and forth based on what you've already done. A company that already has you, has seen your work ethic, has seen what you've contributed, they'll have the conversation with you. Now, if you're a new employee, switching up the phrase is going to help you out and say, you know what, I have many good ideas that I know that I could bring to the company based on my previous work, my previous experience that we kind of talked about. And I'd be grateful if we can talk about a possible increase in the salary. And then that is what's going to assist you having the conversation. But it's key. You want to be confident in the approach. You don't want to be too arrogant. It's okay to ask that question. And then, who are you asking? One of the things you don't want to do, you don't want to tell everybody, okay? You want to get your information. This isn't something that everyone should know about. We all want to get increases. I mean, who wouldn't want to get an increase? However, not everyone needs to know. Gather your information and then bring it to your employer. Now, if you are going into your interview, still gather that information and then pick the proper time based on the conversation. And sometimes it's usually at the tail end. Your employer or the interview, and they may ask you, well, do you have any questions for us? You may have questions about the job, about the company culture, and then you can kindly ask, I'm grateful if we can talk about the salary if they've already presented it to you. If it's your first interview and they haven't brought it to you, you don't want to do that until you get an offer. When you get the offer, that's when it's okay to have the conversation. Secondly, if you can, it would be best to have the conversation in person as opposed to over the phone. Now, with where we are currently in the state of the nation, a lot of things are being done digitally, and that's okay. Having your information is still going to benefit you if you have to do a Zoom interview per se. That's all right. The key thing is having the information ready so that you can bring it to them when you're having that conversation. Now, just some of the things that you want to have prepared. For example, give a number, not a range. So this is a mistake that a lot of folks go into. Have an ideal number. If you go in, well, I'm looking for something between 55 and 60. Now, a company certain times may have that listing. The range is anywhere from 48 to 62. Why? Because it's based on experience. They're not expecting someone who's a entry level to ask for the far end of 62. Now, at the same time, based on your skill set and your research, you don't necessarily have to take that first offer or the lowest offer, because based on the information, you know what's a good number for your market, you know what's a good number for your industry. So you could say if it's between 48 and 62 and you're like, you know what, the average in this area is 56. So you can tell them, hey, based on my research, based on my market, my ideal number is 56. Can we talk about matching or meeting this? And then the discussion can happen. And they may give us 24 or 48 hours so we can come back to you. And that means they're going to see what can be done to kind of get as close or meet you at that number. It's been done before. Now, they may not always reach a number, they may come before. Now, if they have a firm number, as I stated before, certain companies will be like, that's just what it is. I'm sorry, we can't budge. That's when you will have to make the decision of, do I want to accept this offer? Or thank you for your time. I'm going to continue on my search elsewhere. And that's all right. Because at the end of the day, the decision is yours. Now, secondly, have some leverage, okay? When I say have some leverage, be willing to see what that increase can get. Another fair statement that you can make, if you can get me close to this specific number, I'll accept the offer today. Or what are some of the other incentives? So for example, there have been placements where it's like, hey, if you can give me every other Friday off, I'll accept the offer. So say the average, your offer is maybe $1,000 off of what you prefer, or maybe a little more than 1,000. Is there something that they'd be willing to compensate that you'll accept? Is it, you know what, if you can give me 3 more extra vacation days, or if you can pay for a course as I continue to seek my degree, I'll accept your offer today. Because most companies would like to get it out of the way, but they're going to negotiate. And if you, again, have that info, if you have this skill set, if you have the backing of information, they're going to want to be able to keep you on board. They're going to say, you know what, would we be better off with this individual, or would we be better off without them? Chances are they're going to be better with you. So you want to be able to present them with everything that you have, right? You are your best salesman. So don't be afraid to have these conversations, to ask these questions, okay? If you go in there timid, they're going to see that. And that's the last thing you want to do. And lastly, with that, be humble and polite, honestly. That is one of the key things, because one, if you're already an employee and they know your work ethic, they know the type of individual you are, they're going to want to have that conversation with you. It's okay. If you're being interviewed and it's an entry-level position and you're just getting into it, same thing applies. Be humble and polite, but still be forthright with asking your questions. Say, you know what, I thank you for the offer. I'd like to possibly discuss negotiating our salary and a slight increase. Okay? Even the word slight is supposed to like a major increase. It softens the conversation so it can actually happen. Because you may want a substantial increase, but you don't want to use that term. Like, I'd like to discuss a substantial increase. Those are some key words that employers are weary of or they're aware of. So if you say a slight increase, they're like, okay, we might be able to meet what you're asking for. What are you asking for? What would best assist you so we can hire you? Or what would be best to assist you so we can keep you? All right. There are a lot of industries where there's huge turnover, especially in education. All right. But if you have the backing, you have the skill set, you basically have the proof to say, this is why you need me, or this is why I would like to stay, they're going to be fair and have the conversation with you. And then you may have to wait a bit. There may be the opportunity of an increase, and it may not be necessarily when you want. The fiscal year is not January to December. So they may say, hey, actually in April, we may be able to give you an increase. Or the company may tell you, we can offer an increase, but after your first year. Are you willing to do so? All right. Are you willing to stay for that first year at that base average and then go elsewhere? So it is entirely up to you whether you accept the offer, and as well as having the conversation. If you don't ask the question, you'll never have the negotiation. And now what I want to also tap into is sometimes you may get an offer and you accept it, but you realize that you now have to go back and renegotiate or have the negotiation because it never happened the first time around. That's okay as well. So it's like, okay, well, what do I say? Perfect. What you want to do is you want to come back to the table honestly about what you need. Okay, and say, hey, I know I took the offer. However, based on my research, based on the market, I wanted to talk about possibly renegotiating the offer so that I can be not only productive, but a happy employee for your company, because no company wants an unhappy or disgruntled employee. So they can be like, okay, let's have this conversation. Most companies will have that renegotiation when it's happening immediately, not a month to 2 months in. But if you just got an offer on Monday, you accepted it, and then you did more research and you realize, wait, I'm not going to be able to survive. I actually going to need a bit more because I accepted way below the average market rate. Well, then that's an immediate conversation that you can have within a 24-hour turnaround. Say, hey, I would like to discuss this, or based on our negotiation and this market or cost of living, I realize that the numbers won't be able to sustain me, and I want to know if we can talk about this further. And they may give you, yeah, you know what, let's talk about it, because everything hasn't been sent to HR and solidified within the day. This is something that you can bring up to them. And some, unfortunately, they may say, you know what, that's just what it is. And if you can't, we understand that. So don't be afraid if you have to walk away, but at the same time, don't be afraid to have the conversation. All right. Some companies will call your bluff, and that's why you have to go in prepared. If you have all of that information, it's going to assist you. All right. Now, you're not always going to negotiate. So one of the things I always say is practice your negotiation. Okay. Practice your negotiation with friends, practice your negotiation with other professionals, preferably in the industry. Okay. Who can assist you. All right. After your initial meeting, after your initial offer, always do some reflection. I've had a few negotiation conversations in the interview, and I always thought about what I could say differently. Did I have enough information planned so that in the future, when I need to do a salary renegotiation, or if I'm going into a different market or different industry, what am I going to do to make sure that I have all the necessary information so that I get the desired salary I want? So we want that for you. You want to be able to get the desired salary that you need. So are you looking at your market? Are you looking at your cost of living? Are you asking if the company can take care of some expenses? All right. There are some companies that will give you, like, you know what, we're going to give you travel expenses so that you can still get to work back and forth, because we can't give you an increase, and it's actually cheaper for the company to just pay for your gas or pay for your transportation. That's just one way. So there's several different ways to always come outside of the salary negotiation with other incentives. And so looking at how close you are where you're working, if you're traveling to a new location for work, you're like, you know what, I'm moving to Washington, or I'm moving to Chicago from North Carolina. Okay, what can be done? Okay, some companies will be like, we're going to give you travel expense. We're going to give you cost of moving. Some will not. And because of that, you may be like, hey, because of this, this would assist me. This is going to help make my move easier or my cost of living easier. These are all realistic things that you can talk about. Moving is a personal issue, but it's common because you're coming into the industry. You may be going one place to the other. So that's a personal but common question that or common information you can use in your negotiation to say, hey, I like this opportunity. Can we talk about it? Okay. You know, I came from the state of New Jersey to North Carolina. So that piece was important to me, and I thought about those pieces of information as well. So you may be going out of state, or you may be traveling just west of North Carolina or west of the state that you're in or north. But that's something that you could definitely use as well to assist you when you're having this negotiation conversation with your current or future employer. But one thing I would just say lastly, Andon, is don't be afraid to have the conversation. Don't be afraid to bring it up. Have the information. Be confident. Be prepared. All right? If you go in kind of nervous and scared, it's not going to go in your benefit. And you may get it, you may not. Okay? You're going to hear some yeses. Great, we want to work with you. And you may hear some no's. All right? You may get the desired salary, or you may get, we can't meet that, but we can give you X, Y, and Z. And if that is going to get you to stay or get you to accept the offer, then again, it's up to you if you feel that that is a fair salary, or if that is a fair comparison for you to stay on board or for you to accept the offer. So at this moment, I'm going to take a pause. This has been the crust of the presentation, but I do want to answer any questions on negotiations. So at this moment, if you do have a question, please feel free to put it in the chat box and I will answer any questions that come up for the next few minutes. If not, this has been recorded and will be displayed so that you can come back to it and view it later, or if you have a fellow colleague or classmate that was unable to attend, that you may share it with them. Thank you.